came like a bombshell, and we were so overwhelmed that it was just an amazing thing to happen. In fact, referring again to what is happening in London today, the amazing quality of the work of this artist. When I had the moment to actually get onto the website of the Tate Gallery, when my strangely performing internet connection allowed me, and this is happening for several people in Ghana, I pulled one of the pages, I think it's Installation View, and my response was very curatorial. Wow, absolutely wonderful, because I saw this brilliant, luscious color, positive, celebratory, and I was so moved to see the range of work that was being shown, and the fact that this is finally took place for an artist who has made it very clear over the years, that he has been a committed, very gifted, very persistent member of the art community, both in the US and in the UK, but this kind of official recognition and celebration has been a long time coming. So, again, I regret being in London that I could actually go and feast on the wonderful works that many of you have had the opportunity to do, so I do envy you. But going back to the gift of the painting that you got in 2007 in the end when it finally came through, was one of the Guyana/SPEAKS series, we call it, and it was Guyana SPEAKS 3, Return to Crab Island. Crab Island is one of the islands in the mightiest equivalent rivers you may know, which I think at its mouth is 51 miles wide. It's a mighty river which we should all be proud of. And there is one in the show of the same period with a similar name. I think it's called Towards Crab Island, though the palette being used and the size is a little different, the format and size is different from the one we have in the National Collection. Before I go any further, I have to also say that I had the privilege of meeting Bowling very briefly when he was there in 1989. He came with his close friend and colleague Dennis Dekaris, who is a fellow alumnus of the RCA Royal College, though I think about 15 years after Frank Bowling was Dennis's time there. And he came to the Borough School of Art and then to teach me, and had a talk with all these youngsters who were so green and just in awe of him. I think they did actually bring a few small pieces of work. I may be wrong in that in my memory. But subsequently, he gave a talk with Dennis at the Humana Young in Georgetown, where he had an exhibition of, they had a joint exhibition. And what did stand up, it was very forthcoming and frank, as I think I mentioned in my note somewhere. And one of the things that stuck was he said, at the end of it all, you have to get up in the morning and stand in front of that painting and ask yourself, what am I going to put on this canvas today? In other words, it's like the existential question for all artists, from time immemorial, from centuries past to now, what am I going to do? What is the challenges there? So I used to repeat this story many times not to frighten or to deter or depress my students, but as sort of warning and also to spur them on. When I was teaching, and I would always say, you remember what Ms. Buck was such an important and significant artist. You remember what he said, because it is not going to be easy, it is very challenging, it can be very difficult. Oh, but it's very exciting if you want to live up to this challenge and this adventure of seeking yourself through art. And I think this is something that Frank Bowling himself has done, and based on what you may have already read about him or learned from him, it's been quite, I think, a heroic journey that he's been on. So that, in fact, is my way of introduction. So, if I may start, I noticed also with certain pleasure that Frank Bowling's heroes, his art heroes, his painting heroes, are in fact from mine from school days. Those he discovered when he first went to Britain and before he went to the Royal College of Art. So he talks about Gainsborough, Always Turner, Constable, who are 18th and 19th century artists. He talks also about Rembrandt and Velasquez. These are people I have always admired, and you were stunned when you stood in front of the work. And also, of course, he gives a reference to to Francis Bacon for a while, and he's somebody like Van Gogh. So it's a range of people whom he has identified with, and if you like, learn from, be inspired by, which is again very common with artists who have a sense of their own future. You tend to be drawn to these great and undoubted masters. Sorry to not have any mistresses, but these great masters of art. And the common quality, salient quality of all these artists is their mastery of their skills and of their media, whether it's grand oil paintings or tableaus or portraits or watercolors. When you look at Velázquez, for example, you see this, you're overwhelmed by the sheer impact, the skill, and the mastery that is evident. He had a command of these large canvases, and if you may remember, his main picture was in Spain, so he painted on a grand scale to capture. But the work is so impressive because there was a notable and undoubted poise, I would call it, an effortless, an apparently effortless competence. Ravishing painting, that's also the same for Gainsborough, though he was a century later. Just wonderfully stunning effect. And then, of course, Turner seems to have been an artist who found particularly had a particular affinity for expressive, sporting application of paint, balancing all sorts of details, the creation of light and atmosphere. And all of these made him, of course, quite rightly, made him come to be considered a leading person and inspiration for the French Impressionists. So mastery of technique and of the physical space of the painting, something that is common to all outstanding artists. There is manipulation of paint, and painful effects, and they're often very good draftsmen as well. And this is partly because of their sense of observation and understanding of what I would call the physical phenomena of the world, which is their great subject. So we're talking here about rendering, we're talking about the rendering of the social world, the rendering of the natural world in whatever form. And by the time we get to the 19th century, you have Impressionists, and this is where I think change is beginning in how the world is viewed and therefore painted. This is the critical difference that began the significant changes that were characterized modern art, I feel, and I touched on it, the Aubrey Williams event, which took place at the Guyana Commission, I think last October. But I'll mention it briefly again, very short. We have to know then, Frank Robbins, the high regard and respect for this brilliant manipulator of paint and the creator of images, Turner, and his admiration and his engagement with these great painters, which no doubt brought inspiration and empowerment as he over the years created his own very distinctive and memorable surfaces of texture and materiality, which is as mesmeric as Turner, though 150 years or so have separated them. Indeed, Frank Bowling is as much a virtuoso painter as those masters in the history of Western art that yet many of us would admire, because mastery, control, skill, passion, dedication are the common factors in all great painters. And I think these qualities are inherent in the works in the one show at the Tate Gallery. The key difference, I suggest, however, between art practice in earlier centuries and now began to emerge in the 19th century with the concept of the color wheel, a series of cultural layer complementaries where it was felt that colors and contrasts were visible in nature. Many of you know this sort of basic history, art history from the late 19th century. And that these colors could be reproduced in the various art forms with decorative or fine arts of the day. This coincided with the invention of portable paint, so to speak, which meant that artists freed from the art studio and directly in plein air, in open air, and create vibrant, glitter and stippled colors in painting the subjects, various subjects in cityscapes and in rural scenes, which is so typical of French Impressionism. There was therefore intense examination and anticipation of colors, tones, and textures in response to direct observation. And the challenge was how to most effectively achieve these vivid and often fleeting impressions taking place before their eyes. But more importantly, what I can say happened, I think, I can say this, is that once artists started thinking and talking about and debating the colors and tones that they had to capture at high to express the intensity and variety of creation and the work from them, before them, using the range of these wonderful new colors. They were talking less of what to paint, what are we painting, what must we include in the scene, how does it look, but they were talking of how to paint. How do we capture this exciting myriad of color and tone, which the poetry lied before us? And so slowly, I think, this change, this shift in perception, of perspective, that is, considering not the what of the painting, but the how of the painting. And once you shift from the what of the painting to the how of painting, you're talking about method. You're talking about what we now call process. Gaudi's paintings are indeed all about process. And no doubt hear a lot of this afternoon from the other presenters who will speak with authority on this. But once you start to talk about method, you're also talking about materials. This is a standard title in numerous manuals over centuries, methods and materials of the artist. And once you're talking about materials, you're talking primarily about paint and about color and how it is used. Color in all its brilliant variety of hue and tone, enhanced by all sorts of additive, liquids, suspensions, as well as nowadays gels and sprays and other media, which have come about in the 19th century. I also have to say that from the earliest times to now, artists, whether they are magnificent, Velázquez or Goya or Turner, or people a little later, have all been obsessed and keenly interested as part of being a professional in their materials and their media and the methods that they use to prepare first the surfaces on which they're painting before their master strokes are actually on those surfaces to become finished paintings. Indeed, I have a reference, a little bit of preparation I was able to do from, I think, a website that was in standard talking about working very particularly with a chemist to try to understand the behavior of the paint that you wanted to use, which is very key, very critical. Before you talk about working in a haze of inspiration, you have to be extremely practical, extremely organized, because you're dealing with the physicality of your medium, how it is going to function, when you use it, or the way you use it.